Hello and a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world, and welcome to today's LLM Insights. We're joined today by the Director of Graduate and International Programs at Washington University in St. Louis. Now, we are 30 seconds ahead of schedule, so we'll just give everyone an opportunity just to join, make sure that they've got everything in place, any questions ready, anything set. If you do have any questions and there's any concerns, webinars at postgradsolutions.com is your best bet. If you are watching on demand, of course. If you're watching live today and you want to ask any questions, pop it in the chat facility. And if you are watching on LinkedIn or Facebook today, which I'm sure many of you will be, even if you swing by on your timeline and you want to ask an appropriate question, feel free to do so. We will ask one in very shortly towards the end of this presentation, and we'll go from there. But for now, I'd like to hand you over to the representative from Washington University in St. Louis. Juan will be taking you through the next 20 to 30 minutes, and I'll be back towards the end. Over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gareth, and welcome everybody. Always glad to be able to share with potential students, right? About our programs, about WashU, about my experience, because as a matter of fact, I was an LLM student back in 2009 here at WashU. I graduated from law school in Colombia, South America. Of course, I was very familiarized with the civil law system. And then I wanted to learn about the US and the common law system. Being able to come here to WashU was, well, really a blessing. And it really, changed my life. A little bit about myself. I graduated from the LLM here. I then was able to work for a law firm here in St. Louis. Upon graduation, I then joined a couple of multinational companies and ended up as legal head for 7 countries in the Americas. And all that was definitely thanks to graduating from the LLM here. It was just a life-changing experience, as hopefully I'll be able to explain. Now, I specialize also in negotiation and dispute resolution. That is perhaps one of the strongest areas here at WashU, as we will talk. So I teach within negotiations, cross-cultural dispute resolution, U.S. arbitration law, international arbitration law, mediation. That's kind of my area of expertise as a professor, but then also as Gareth was presenting. I am also the director for graduate and international programs here at WashU. So I oversee the LLM programs, the MLS programs, and I also help with the JSD programs. That said, I decided to create a presentation for you, and I named it Top 5 Things You Should Consider When Choosing a Law School in the United States. And I made this not only from the point of view of director of international programs, right, or professor. I did it also as an alumnus, right, as a former student. So I was there, I was in your shoes, right, 16 or 17 years ago, right, trying to make this decision on where I want to study, whether I want to study, right, a master's, where I want to do it, right? All that information that's out there. Which law school should I choose? What things should I be considering, right? And that's how I put together this presentation. So please feel, right, that I'm presenting as a former student also. Again, that I have been there in your shoes and I know how exciting, but also sometimes overwhelming and stressful, right? This decision can be because it's a big decision. I get it. It's a big decision in investment in not only resources but also time, effort, right? And of course, you want to make sure that you actually study a high quality program that will open, doors afterwards, right? That's, I imagine, the aim that we all have. So the first one, let me go here. The first one that I chose is diversity and networking. So you want to make sure, right, that you join a law school where you're going to be able not only to, of course, share with local American students, right, but also from students from around the world. I always say, and this I say it as a former student and as a professor, that there's so much that you can learn from books and professors, of course, but learning from peers is also a wonderful opportunity whenever you're in an LLM program. And it results that we don't only have one type of legal system in the world. No, right? That would be kind of easy. We have multiple legal systems around the whole, planet. And not only by types, because of course we have the civil law system, we have the common law system, we have mixed systems, we have Sharia law based systems. So there's a wide variety out there of legal systems that at the same time are living things. Legal systems evolve and borrow elements from other legal systems. So some of them kind of fuse together, right? So being able to study with other students that have been formed in different legal systems, that really increases your learning curve. I learned a lot from my classmates back when I was a student, right? And I would ask questions, tell me about your legal system. How does this work, right? What do judges do? What is the role of the attorneys? How does this work? And here at WashU, whenever you have individuals from around 30 different countries, right? That's just an amazing opportunity. That's an amazing learning opportunity, right? But also it allows you to network. It allows you to, of course, build relationships with individuals from other countries, cultures, languages, etc., right? And that networking works. If I can tell you, after I graduated, it was maybe 3 years after I graduated, I worked with a couple of my former classmates from Japan in a project for Latin America and Central America. And all that was thanks to the fact that I had networked with them while I was here, right? But again, that opportunity increases whenever you study in a law school that attracts a lot of international students from different backgrounds. So just as an example, let me show you here. Between 2024 to 22 to 24, look at all this. All the red spots are where we had students from, right? So we're talking about a very highly globalized law school. And now university-wide, it's even better, right? Because every single school at Washington University is within the top of the lists in the United States and the world. And that, of course, attracts a lot of international students. So it's so fun because I walk around, I get out of my office right now, and if I walk for 2 minutes, I'm gonna listen to 3, 4 different languages, right? So that's the kind of community that as international students we want to be part of, right? Also, we want to feel welcome, right? We want to be in a community that actually welcomes international students where we don't feel like we are the only ones over there. And again, here at WashU, since it attracts so many international students, university-wide and law school-wide, of course, that's something that I felt at home right away. When I came here, I was like, wow, this is amazing, right? The whole community around WashU, of course, is the same thing, all adapted to this, amazing diversity. Now, let me see what I had here. This is important. What about student associations? That's another way to network whenever you are in your law school, right? Here at WashU, just the law school, right? We have more than 40 student associations. I'm actually a faculty advisor for the Latin American Law Students Association and for the Saudi Students Association. But there's 40 something. And it's a great way to be able to build relationships again with all these students, again, local students, international students, students that maybe share the same or have common interests as you have, right? Maybe it's a specific area of law, maybe it's a specific region, right? There's so many criteria that is used to, for those associations to form. And they have their own symposiums, their own conversations, their own networking events. So that's always a great, great way to really make a good use of that possibility of networking here at WashU. Let me see what else I have here. Yep. Um, Let me move into my second point, right? And this one is also important, and it is related to point number one, and it is this JD-LLM integration. So let me explain this. Some law schools offer an LLM program, right, for international students, and they have the LLM as an independent program, totally independent program within their law schools. And whenever they have that independency of the LLM program, what happens is that the LLM program is going to be having its own instructors, right, its own professors, its own content and material. And unfortunately, whenever you have a separated LLM, then you're not going to really be able, as a law school, to offer a wide variety of courses, right? Because it's just going to be administratively very complicated, right? To be able to build 50 courses for students to actually go and choose only for the LLM. So here at WashU, we have the opposite, right? What we have is that we have an integration in between the LLM and the JD program, meaning that LLM students, right, are not independent, right, are really part of the law school and have access to all those courses that are offered within the JD program, have access to the same renowned faculty that makes a law school good, right? Have access to the same content, academic content in the courses, right? So you're making sure that you're actually learning the quality of WashULaw, right? Not a lower quality. So this is really important for many reasons. Not only because it's a better use of your resources, right? Going to a law school that you know is going to provide you with what you're looking for and what you deserve, but also because employers know this. And it happened to me. Right? When I graduated from WashU, I would just engage in a conversation with somebody at a bar, wherever. Right? And they would ask me, okay, what do you do? And I would say, well, I just graduated from my law program at WashULaw. They're like, what? Right? That's amazing. And they know that because they know that the quality of the program, right, is exactly the quality of the whole law school that keeps us in the top 14 of the rankings, right? Is that quality. That integration, as I was telling you, gives you also that access to all those courses that you can choose from. Maybe you're interested in this area of law, maybe in another area of law, maybe a nice combination. When I was a student, I didn't have like a specific focus in an area of law. I just wanted to learn like different things. I wanted to, of course, learn contracts and corporations and all this, but I also wanted to learn more of practical courses like commercial agreement drafting, negotiations, right? But I also wanted to know about transnational litigation. So I wanted to take like courses all over the place, and I was able to do that, right? And as a matter of fact, I finished my course, my program, and I look back and I say, wow, this is amazing. I actually learned what I really wanted to learn, right? Because I was able to choose, right? To choose from courses. And that is possible because the LLM is part of the law school, okay? Um, Really covered all this, right? Well, no, I have the last one, right? Will you have the possibility of transferring to the JD program? And the answer is yes. So LLM students at WashULaw, right, that perhaps want to pursue a JD or continue to pursue a JD after the program may transfer from the LLM to the JD program upon satisfaction of a GPA requirement and grades requirement. So basically, students that have a GPA by the end of the LLM of 3.34 or above, and who have no grades below B, okay, final grades below B, can transfer to the JD program, entering kind of in the second year of the JD program and being able to complete it, right, just in 2 years additionally from the LLM. So in 3 years, they're graduating both from the LLM and the JD program. That is a nice idea. One of my classmates, who was also from Colombia, by the way, when I was a student, decided to stay for the JD, graduated from the JD, and well, now he's a top. I think he's the general counsel for Meta. So he's doing very well. I did well too, but everybody did great. But of course, but you have that option. You have that option if that's part of your plan. And as you can see, there's no LSAT requirement to do that transfer, right? So it's kind of a nice idea. Number three, learning through practice, opportunities outside the classroom. So I personally am more of a practical learner, right? Yes, I can go to class, I can take notes, right? And I can take exams, and I did well. But I always like having that combination of, all right, classroom work, that's nice, but some other type of learning opportunity, right? That is kind of more practical. Again, I'm a little bit more practical, and I think that being able to have a nice combination, right, of classroom work plus other learning opportunities is really good whenever you're thinking about an LLM. So We have several programs here at WashU that LLM students can have access to. We have the JELP, which is the Judicial Experiential Learning Program, in which LLM students can actually go to court, state courts and federal courts here in St. Louis, right, and see how the court system actually works, see real trials, interact with judges, interact with attorneys, right, and really get into understanding how does the system work. And that is really important because one thing is what we watch in the movies, another thing is what we hear from our instructors, right? But being able to actually be there, right? That's something that I really advise my students to do, right? Go and see how this works, how the judicial system in the United States actually works, and ask questions, right? Interact. We also have the attorney advisor program, and that's a way to really engage with a practicing attorney and being able to receive from those attorney advisors advice into how to uh, draft legal memos in the United States, how to interact in hearings, right? How to advocate, right? That's what we're talking about. We also have several competitions, right? If you are one of those students that like competing, well, this is the place, right? Because we not only have like the regular moot court competitions that we have within the program itself, but we also have the client counseling competition. That was one of my favorite ones because as lawyers, a lot of times as law students, a lot of times they train us to litigate, right? To litigate. And that's okay. So that's the interaction in between me, right? Maybe another attorney, right? Or me, a judge, right? An attorney. But being able to get trained into my interaction with my client, oh, I think that's more important. In my case, is that first interaction, right? In which I'm capable of really being able to help my client to understand what the client needs, right? To understand those interests that the client really wants me to defend or to represent. Well, that one's really important. That client counseling competition, I love it. It's normally managed by Professor Jim Reeves. It's my peer and very good friend. So that one's great. We are also part of the international arbitration competition. Students can also make the international Jessup Moot Court competition, right? So there is a lot of competitions here that you can, participate in. And of course, those increase your learning curve, but your learning and your knowledge, but it also, well, enhances your resume, right? So those are things that are important. You also want to start building a solid resume, right? So I love that. Let me see here. Well, we have also what we call Bar Prep 101, right? So you will have the opportunity of engaging in several workshops throughout the year. And those workshops, you're going to be taught or explained, right, about the bar exam, how the bar exam is here, right, or in the different states, right, what you should be looking for if you're thinking about sitting for the bar exam, how should you prepare, type of questions, how to answer those types of questions. And that is right now more important than ever because most of the states in the United States are changing their bar exams right now to this new bar exam called the next gen. And there are going to be changes in the questions, in how the questions are asked, in the portion of questions, in the areas that are tested. So, for example, the New York Bar exam now is going to be including one area in negotiation and client counseling. So that's perfect, right? So things like that, that is really important to take advantage of all those, workshops and opportunities to try to better prepare for those bar exams. So again, I love the fact that we have that interaction in between, classroom work, but also practical work. Number four, and this is important mostly for those students like me, right, who didn't have English as our first language, right? So I was again from Colombia, right? So Spanish is my language, right? English, my second language. And yes, I had learned English in school, right? And in middle school, high school, everything, right? And I knew how to read, write, right? Everything in English. But it becomes a little bit more challenging when we think about, oh, wait a second, this is going to be legal English, right? And I don't know if it happens to you, but I believe that for some reason, it's kind of funny, whatever language, right? Whenever you're going to read like a judicial decision in your own language, it tends to be complicated, right? Legal decisions normally use kind of legalese, right? Or a convoluted language that even when you're a speaker of that language makes it a little bit challenging to, huh, what? What is this? Right? So now imagine that you're not, a native English speaker, right? And now you're going to be studying law in English, right? Well, that adds a little bit of challenges, right? And I talk it from my experience, right? I was like, okay, I need to get better in this, into understanding these legal terms, right? Into understanding all this, right? Kind of understanding what language the courts use and all this. And I had that opportunity thanks to that legal English program that we have. So we have the ILEP, which is the Intensive Legal English Program, that is offered normally in the summer, right? And it is a 4 week full-time program, right, in July, that is meant to help students increase their levels or their skill levels in legal English writing, reading, speaking, right? It is really intensive, right? And I took that one in 2009, right before I started my LLM program, and I was so thankful I did because it really made a big difference. Made me gain a lot of confidence, of course, besides the knowledge. I made my friends before the LLM, which is great, right? Because when we started the LLM, I already had a bunch of friends from the ILEP, from the Intensive Legal English Program. And something very interesting is that, yes, I used a lot of that information in my LLM, but it was funny because I remember that I was working afterwards for that law firm here. And I remember what happened, and it was something that I had learned in the ILEP. And I was like, oh, I know this. I know this from the ILEP. So it's just a wonderful opportunity. And one of the nicest things about the ILEP is that we do not charge anything for the ILEP for students that are enrolled for the LLM. So we give it for free. Okay, so it's a wonderful opportunity. It's just a great opportunity to increase those skills and start getting that general understanding of the U.S. legal system before engaging in those LLM courses. Location and campus, important. Okay, let me show you here. So we're located in St. Louis. St. Louis is mainly located in Missouri, although St. Louis is divided by the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River crosses St. Louis, and then what you have to the west, where we are, right, is part of Missouri, and to the east of that river, that part of St. Louis is located in Illinois, in the state of Illinois. But we're mostly in Missouri. St. Louis is mostly Missouri. The bigger part is in Missouri. That's where we're located. We're kind of in the middle of the United States. This is what's also called the Midwest, right? They call it the Midwest. As you can see, that arch, that gigantic arch that you see there in one picture, that's kind of the symbol of St. Louis. It's actually my daughter right now, as we speak, is in a field trip in the arch today. But anyway, so that arch symbolizes the entrance or the gateway to the west, right? And it's just amazing. It's just a symbol. The city, I love the city. I think it's a beautiful city. It's an easy city. So I came from Bogota, Colombia, which is a 9 million people city, and it tended to be highly complicated, right? Traffic wise, loud, just complicated, big city, right? With a lot of people, of course. And one of the things that I was looking for in my life was I want something where I can have more flexibility, right? And that's one of the reasons why I love St. Louis. St. Louis metropolitan area, the whole metropolitan area, which is very extended, has a total of 2.5 million people. But at the same time, it has everything that you want, right? And everything that we need, right? There's always something to do. There's always some sort of festival of things going on, games, of course, because St. Louis is the home for the St. Louis Cardinals, which is one of the main, baseball teams. St. Louis is also house for the St. Louis City Football Club, right? Which is the football, soccer here, a team, which is great. We have the St. Louis Blues, which is the hockey team, which is also very exciting to see, and they have won the Stanley Cup in the past. But sports is like a big thing in St. Louis. Festivals is a big thing in St. Louis. And you know what? I've learned with the years. I think one of the mm, biggest strengths of St. Louis is the food. Right? There's food from around the world, and it's really, really good. So there's a lot of food festivals and stuff to do here. I think it's a great city again because it has everything, but at the same time, I think it's a very welcoming city and very comfortable when you're going to be focusing on your studies also, right? It's just like the perfect balance. So I really like it. Our campus is beautiful. It has been declared as the and that was 2020, no, 2018, I think. That's declared the most beautiful college campus in the United States. Just imagine that, right? It is amazing. When I was a student, I was impressed every day just walking around, and 16 years afterwards, I'm still walking around and I'm still impressed with how this is. I mean, it's just unbelievable. There's always things to do on campus. There's always games, festivals. Again, there's a lot of things to do. We are located next to the largest urban park in the United States. It's actually larger than the Central Park in New York. And in that park, well, not only can you do a bunch of sports and stuff, of course, there's always families and students and people just, jogging, riding the bicycles, etc. Golf courses. But they also have the History Museum, the Arts Museum, the Science Center, the Money, which is an outdoor theater, the zoo, which is one of the top in the United States. And you know the nice part? All of that is free. Right? So you can enter for free. So as a student, I did spend a lot of time there at the Forest Park. You see that first picture full of the hot air balloons? That's the hot air balloon festival that happens every year at the Forest Park, which is one of those events that just incredible to go and see. It's amazing. Now, let me tell you. Let me stop here. Oh, scholarship opportunities. Okay, I think that's gonna be a question. Do we have scholarships for our international students? The answer is yes. Right? We do have partial scholarships. Those scholarships cover part of the tuition. Okay, they go in different ranges. We do consider absolutely everyone that is admitted to the program. We consider them automatically for scholarship, and we always try to help as much as we can. Definitely, and I'm telling you this again because I was a student, right? And one of the main reasons why I was able to come to WashU and graduate from such a law school was because I was helped with a partial scholarship, right? And we believe that we want to continue doing that, right? And we understand sometimes the challenges of the conversion into U.S. dollars, the living expenses, right, in the U.S. as opposed to other places. We understand all that, so we try to always help our students with those partial scholarship opportunities. Now, here, I want to say something important, going kind of combining the scholarship area with the location area. St. Louis is one of the cheapest cities to live in the United States. And that is wonderful because whenever you compare the costs of studying here in St. Louis, right, with maybe anywhere in California, or anywhere in Florida, New York, Boston, right, it's gonna be in between 3 to 6, sometimes 7 times cheaper to live in St. Louis than in those locations. So what happens is that a lot of times students focus a lot on the tuition amount, and then they say, "Oh no, I found this, cheaper university or opportunity, right? I found this lower tuition over here." But then unfortunately, they learn that living costs are way higher, and then by the end, they didn't do anything. They sometimes even ended up spending even more money, right? And I really think that being able to secure at least a scholarship that helps with that part of tuition, right? And combining it with low living expenses in comparison to other cities, right? Uh, Plus being able to study at a top 14 law school, that's the perfect combination. That's the perfect equation that I can think of. Plus, a little detail, LLM students, or all students at Washington University, right? They receive this little card that is called the U-Pass. And with the U-Pass, students have free public transportation throughout the year. So you don't have to pay anything to use the Metro link. You don't have to pay anything to use the public buses. Okay, so that's another nice way to save and to move around and to get to know the city without spending money. So again, something added whenever you're thinking about those costs. Now, let me see. I'm not done yet. Okay, let me go back maybe here. Uh, I'm gonna leave it here, and I'm gonna tell you about the different programs that we have. Okay, so as I was telling you, thanks to this JD integration, right, we have this multiple amount of courses that we offer to our LLM students, right, and when you can choose. And thanks to that nice offer, right, are we offer a very flexible program for students. As I told you, my experience, right, I was taking courses all over the place, right? But we do have the possibility of, specializations. We have the possibility of students going through an LLM with a specialization in intellectual property and technology law, right? That IP and technology law is again another one of our strengths. Um, an LLM with a specialization in negotiation and dispute resolution, which of course I love. I'm biased because that's my area. We have one that is called LLM in US law, right? And that is for students like me, right? That want to graduate from a program that, the diploma actually says LLM in US law, right? Because my aim was to either work in the United States or work in organizations where US law, right, was going to be a big deal. So we have that one, but we also have a general LLM, right, which is the most flexible option. And there's for students, again, that want to take courses all over the place, but also for those students that are thinking about preparing for the bar exam or taking a bar exam in the United States. The general LLM comes as the more handy because of the flexibility and the easiness to be able to fulfill the requirements to sit for a particular bar exam. Now, that doesn't stop there, right? We also have another option, right? Let me go back. The specializations require you to take 15 credits, at least 15 credits within the specific area of specialization. Now, we have a more flexible option also, which is called certificates. So you have the possibility as a student here at WashU to graduate from an LLM program, right? With a certificate in a specific area. And we have business and corporate law, we have international law, we have negotiation and dispute resolution, or IP and technology law, right? So those are options that we have there so that you can better make use of all the effort that you're investing here, right? And it is, I really want to craft it this way. I want to do this. I want to fulfill the bar exam requirements, but at the same time, maybe obtain a certificate. You can always do that. Right. So we tend to be very really accommodating. That's the whole plan, is to offer you flexibility, and then you can study what you're really wanting to study. Regarding the length of the LLM programs, right? The most common one or the most popular one is the 1 year program. So it's 2 semesters, right? 24 credits at least, right? You can take more. It doesn't cost more to take more, but you need to take at least 24 credits to graduate. It's again 1 year program, and we have starts of the program right now on spring, right, which is January of 2026. We also have a start in August 2026. And we're still receiving applications for January, for example. If you're interested in coming in January, right, and if you maybe have the possibility of starting your studies right now in this January, again, we still have that door open. We're going to be having already students from, again, a lot of different countries. So that's going to be a very exciting time. We also have a 2 year program, right, 4 semester program, which the main difference is that it includes a first year that is mostly focused on legal English and introduction to the US legal methods, right? Law and methods. So that one is designed for students who still feel that they need to work on their English skills, right? And learn more about legal English and English in particular, right? Before engaging in most of the substantial law courses. So that would be that 2 year program. right? We also have a 3 semester possibility, and that is for students who want to have maybe more time for preparation for the bar exam, that maybe want to be able to have an internship in the third semester, right? So we also have that option of the 3 semester program. Again, the largest one tends to be the 1 year program. And, it has probably one of the reasons is also the cost, of course, right? It's going to cost less than the 3 year or the 3 semester or the 2 year. But we do have all those possibilities for our international students. So of course, if you have any questions, I'm gonna be more than happy to answer those. Here's my contact info. I want you to please take notes on this. That's my email address. If you have any question whatsoever, remember that I was a student. I was there in your shoes. So I'm always happy to answer that, to help out, and to share my own experience, of course, if you are interested. Thank you so much. I'm gonna stop sharing, but Gareth is gonna take it, I
Yes.
think.
Thank you, Juan. Really appreciate that. Thank you. As per all the other LLM festival sessions we've hosted, it's really informative and it's great to hear different perspectives. I think Juan more than anyone, to be fair, because he really puts emphasis on the fact that he's been a student himself, international student himself, and he's really able to relate. So I do encourage anyone, like Juan said earlier, to reach out to him. Pick his brains. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to communicate. Juan, one of the things we never really touched upon there, and to be fair, it's always the last thing on people's minds, is the kind of postgraduate opportunities. A student comes along, LLM, does their bar exam potentially wherever they wish to do it. What are the opportunities like in St. Louis to study, or sorry, to work, and what hand-holding exercise goes in from the university and the law school into ensuring that they do have a great opportunity post LLM?
Okay, so there's always, it's. I have to say this. It is always going to be a challenge, okay, as an international student, whenever you graduate here in the United States, to secure a job. That doesn't mean that it is impossible, right? I see that my students, for the most, those who find jobs are very active from the beginning of the program, looking for opportunities, right? And some of them actually set daily challenge, not daily challenge, a daily task of at least 7 minutes to 8 minutes to make a quick search, right? And see what's out there, right? And send an application and send applications. Now we have the Career Center, and in the Career Center, right, our international students can go there, right, and should go. I say they should,
Yeah.
right? Because if they go there, they will help them putting together their resumes, right, their cover letter according to the U.S. legal market, make that look as attractive as possible, right? They will also signal if they see that there are, opportunities that are suitable and good for LLM students. If the student finds an opportunity and needs help with an application, Career Center will help them. But those students that are very active from the beginning, those are the ones that I normally see that find these nice opportunities, not only in the United States, but in St. Louis, in other places of the United States, sometimes abroad. But my advice is be active, be active.
Mm.
Participate in all these events. Do some networking. Participate in student associations. Right? There's bar associations in St. Louis, right? That I'm always happy to contact students with, right? So that they can participate in the networking events, etc. To start enhancing that resume and increasing those contacts for after graduation. I was gonna tell you something more about this part of job seeking. You remember, Gareth, last year we had Marcus,
Yes, yeah, student,
a
yeah.
student from Germany, right? He has been working in a law firm here in St. Charles, which is one of the suburbs, well, one of the areas of St. Louis. He found that job, right? And he's super happy, right? And apparently the law firm was super, super happy with him also. Um, but I would say yes. I mean, it's not easy, but if you do your homework, right, and help yourself, well, that is going to increase those odds of being able to secure something outside. Now, St. Louis, Well, it's a big hub. We do have, I mean, St. Louis has a bunch of law firms, very large firms, small firms. There's everything. But there's also a lot of big companies that are headquartered here in St. Louis, right? That are also nice opportunities, right? So Purina is here. Boeing is in St. Louis. Hauser Busch is in St. So there's gigantic also companies for those students who are maybe better looking for an in-house counsel role. So again, be active, and we will support through the Career Center as much as possible.
And I would say don't put too much emphasis on leaving it late as well. People think, oh, I've just joined. Realistically, and we've heard this a lot over the last 3 to 4 weeks from various different law schools, and experts as well. When you start, you've really only got 9 months before it's all over, effectively, at times, of course. So you need to be thinking the moment you get in, right, what am I doing next? And like you said, 7 to 8 minutes every single day, applying, researching, looking into things. Less is more sometimes. And I think that you don't need to leave it all until the last minute. So thank you for that, Juan. The other topic is accommodation. A lot of the times international students will go, I know where I want to study, I know what I want to do. I know what specialism I want to go for. Brilliant. Oh, crikey, I've got nowhere to live. So how do you go about helping a student that doesn't know anything about the state, the city, moving there? Get, what is cheap? Like you mentioned earlier, there are things that are cheaper than major cities. So how does a student go about finding that accommodation, and do you help with that?
Okay. Yeah, at Washington University, all graduate students, right? Graduate students, right, live off campus. So everything around campus is going to be, well, properties, right? With students, staff, faculty, etc. It's rather easy to find something because there's multiple, there's a lot. We do have a nice housing guide, right? So if you go through our website, right, and go to the LLM programs and then go to admitted students, you're going to find a very nice housing guide that explains absolutely everything. Explains each one and every single one of the neighborhoods, right? It talks about what features the neighborhood has, right? Data about the neighborhood, things to do, the distance to campus, transportation access, everything so that you can do your homework, right? And of course, it brings you with links to different landlords, etc. Now, there's also a housing organization that's affiliated with WashU, right, which is called Quadrangle Housing with a Q, Quadrangle Housing, which also offers a bunch of different properties affiliated with WashU in all the surrounding areas of the campus. Now, what did I do when I was a student, right? So the first thing that I came like 3 days before the start of ILIP, right, to kind of have some time to look for an apartment, right? And I went and checked three different apartments near campus to try to make sure, right, that I was comfortable with the location that I was, the location and of
Yeah.
course, the property. And in my case, I had this perfect for me, a studio apartment. I wanted to live by myself, right? So I didn't want to share rooms. If you want to share rooms, there's obviously, of course, properties with multiple rooms. But I just wanted my own studio, right? And it was a perfect location, my kitchen, everything. And it was walking distance, 15 minutes from campus through a beautiful street that's full of trees. It's just amazing, called Forsyth. I could also take the metro because I had the metro station right across the street. And that is one metro station away from the metro station, which is just below the law school, right?
Mm.
But I mean, it's there. So all those things you want to consider, right? Now, there is an important fact here, and there is a lot of us international students, right? One question that we have is, should I get a car? Right? Is it going to be easy, right, to commute from one place to another one? Am I going to be needing a car or not? I'll tell you my story. I looked at a map before I traveled and I said, oh, right, you know what? Campus is here, this is here. I plan on living, I had my three properties already there. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna buy a bicycle. So I bought a bicycle as soon as I came here. But then I started learning, oh, wait a second, distances, right? In these cities that are so wide, right? It's
Mm.
so spread, those distances tend to be high, I mean, large. And I was already struggling with my bicycle. And I was like, oh no, you know what? So I ended up buying a used car from a student here at Wash. You walk around and then you'll see, I'm selling my car, I'm selling my car. You know, students that are leaving. So I bought a car, and that was the best decision I had. Because yes, I still normally use the Metro Link or walk to campus, but it was wonderful to be able to know that I had my car to go and buy my groceries, to travel. I traveled a lot when I was a student here. So I would go to Chicago, I would go to Memphis, I would go to Nashville, I went to Miami even, right? But those are things that depending on where you are, you're gonna feel that need for a car or not. I'm just saying, be open because in my case, I was happy that I bought it, and then I sold it. Again, the same thing that the other student did by the end of the program. But that's it. But let me tell you a little bit about the because you were asking me about the accommodation, right? So, for example, the apartment that I lived in, I was helping a student that was an incoming student that was asking me for where can I live, and I said, hey, look, I'll give you this information, right? Try to contact them, right? That was the location I lived at, and it was great, and it was the rent for the month was I think around $900. So that is something that is going to be
Mm.
very challenging to find in other cities, right? But it again, it was great, and I've seen students that maybe want to share, right? We have Facebook pages and everything. The university has Facebook pages where students, WashU students, say like, "Hey, I have one room. Hey, whatever." So if you're thinking about that, that's another possibility if you want to live with somebody else from WashU and makes you feel, more comfortable. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's such an important point. Accommodation's one of those things that
Mhm.
universally around the globe, people leave until the last minute and think, I've been there, I've been a student myself, and you sit there and you think, oh, I've got all angles covered, and then bash, you go, I've got nowhere to live. So, thank you for that one. Really appreciate that. Thank you for your time. It's been a great session. Anyone who has any questions, I urge you to reach out to Juan, like I mentioned earlier. Communicate if you've got any issues, concerns at all, please just
Mhm.
talk, have a chat because the best thing you can do is find out firsthand what it's like within the state, within the city, within the law school, because you're going to be dedicating an entire year of your life minimum, if not longer. But it sounds like you'd want to live there considering how cheap it is. So yes, you could be having a huge life change. So research, communicate, and any concerns, please webinars at postgradsolutions.com or email Juan directly. Thank you for your time. Take care. Bye bye.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody.